approval message from everybody. So I'm also curious, we have a lot of countries represented here today. Right now we're at 87 attendees. I know that number is going to keep going up. So again, thank you so much for being so gracious in terms of making this work and being here today. I'm really, really excited, really excited to do this. This is obviously something that a lot of you are curious to know more about and perhaps even struggle with. And it's becoming a tool that goes right alongside of pretty much everything we do in our careers as corporate flight attendants. Because of that, it's a ubiquitous tool. We have to know how to use it. And I really enjoy using it. And I love the story of it too, a story of how Canva got started. Miss Melanie Perkins is an Australian entrepreneur. She was teaching graphic design at a university and recognized that most of the pretty savvy graphic design softwares and tools were a little bit too high tech for people to average person to use and utilize. So she thought there was a need for a software for graphic design that you could utilize for common person. You didn't have to have a degree in graphic design in order to be able to use it, maybe like Adobe for that matter. So what she started out with was for yearbooks. It was called Fusion Books. And it was wildly successful. And they realized, okay, like we have a real product here that we could perhaps take to the market. And this is my favorite part of the story. So Melanie started this company alongside of her boyfriend, right? And she needed investor money. And what she did was she took up the hobby of kiteboarding. Because she recognized that there was a venture capitalist kiteboarding retreat and she could get directly involved right next to these people that she wanted to pitch her product and her idea to. And she went for it. She took up this really kind of dangerous hobby to make it happen, to make her dream happen. And that feels very aligned with what a lot of us had to do to become corporate flight attendants, really chase that dream, shoot our shot, chase after it relentlessly. So I'm very inspired by her story and very thankful that she came up with this software because my God, it has made my life easier in so many different facets and capacities. So that's the story of Canva. Just thought you all would like to know that as well. Okay, just want to make sure everyone can hear me. I'm seeing some comments.
Yes, it seems like everyone can hear you. So some of the
Okay.
folks on today were saying this is a little bit of different format today. That they can't talk and everything like that. It looks like chat might be disabled since we had over 600 or close to 600 folks registered. It's not going to be the talk back and forth, but you can ask questions in the Q&A section, and we'll get those questions answered towards the end of the webinar here. We're going to work while Jamie goes through this. We're going to work on getting that chat enabled so we can talk there. But if you have any questions, just make sure to ask them there, and we'll answer them as we get to the end. And the goal is to see Jamie. So that's everyone's doing it right.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Jamie. For those of you who may not know me or be familiar with me, I did found this company called Flightus, and it was designed with the very principle of of what we're doing here today to share. And to create a sense of community. And I know this is a little bit of a different format. This is something that we do once a month within the Flightus mentorship program. We come together and we teach a very on-point topic of what's needed, what skill set you're looking to learn in this industry so that you're consistently learning throughout the year. It's not just one-time training that you go to for a couple days, but really relevant and applicable training. And I recognize that there's a lot of people struggling with their Canva skills. And it's a tool we use almost every day for our career. So that's why we opened up this Flightus mentorship program, community connect call for everybody. This is everybody in the Flightus community right now. So I can't even begin to express my gratitude for those of you who are perhaps staying up late because you're halfway across the world to attend, or made different arrangements to attend today. It's such a pleasure and such an honor to teach you today and to showcase a little bit about what I know. And as with everything, my goal is to always help and to enhance your career. The coolest thing in the world for me is when I get feedback of saying, oh my gosh, Jamie, I tried that thing that you showed and it was fantastic, or it was spectacular and the clients loved it, or I felt so much more confident doing this. That is the currency of what gives me vitality. And it's so I can't even quite articulate how excited I am to share with you my Canva skill set today. And I say we go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see what I have pulled up here. Okay, so we're going to get right into Canva, our Canva Masterclass here. So what are we going to be doing today? Because there's a lot to Canva, and especially in what we do for Canva in aviation, for that matter, right? So again, what is Flightus? You know, my whole ambition with Flightus is to create a platform of sharing. And dare I say, Flightus was the first one to do this. Okay, there's been a lot of people that now are all about creating community, and I love that. But dare I say, Flightus is not only the first, but it's the largest, and that is abundantly evident by the amount of people that are registered for this call and that are on this call. It is the largest community of corporate flight attendants in the world. So who am I? I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's a lot of new people here. So like, who is this? Who is this Jamie Gibson? Who's this person that started Flightus? I went to the British Butler Institute. I also went to a super yacht chef culinary school. I've trained over 200 corporate flight attendants, and I'm also certified in the Forbes 5-star luxury hospitality program too. So I'm as most of you probably feel as corporate flight attendants, it always feels a little bit uncomfortable to be in the spotlight because we're so used to being behind the scenes and believing in the nobility of service and serving others. So again, we're not going to spend too much time on this slide. Okay, the three things that I want you to walk away with today. I'm going to repeat this again and again and again because we got an hour here today, and my goal is to jam pack you with information and skills so that you really feel confident and savvy utilizing Canva, and you walk away with some really fun, cool new ideas of how you can utilize this skill set for your career. So understanding the concept of a brand kit and how it applies to Canva. So I'm going to break this into two sectors of brand kit, right? Because some of us work for a company, and that company has a brand that we are exemplifying, that we are embodying, and that everything that we produce emulates that brand in a tangible manner. But also you yourself as a corporate flight attendant, you're also a brand, okay? And you're developing that brand. Sure, Flightus is my brand, but Flightus is everybody, right? So that Flightus started out as kind of what my personification of this concept was, of this self-branding. Now, granted, Flightus has grown into something so much bigger than me, which I love. It's about every single one of you. It's not about just me anymore. But each of you are your own brand, if you believe it or not, in this profession. And that kind of, you know, there's more to talk about with that in terms of finding your fit, and, you know, that brand being aligned with whatever company or operation that you onboard with or are applying for a job with. But the brand kit can go in two different sectors: either your company that you work for, and I have a company that we're going to be using as an example today, as a really fun example, but also you personally. So for the first one, we're going to be working on a menu with, you know, a company menu. The second one, for a resume, we're going to be using if you were your own personal brand, okay? Second thing I want you to walk away with today is just a general savviness of Canva's features. Again, this is something I hear often, like, oh my gosh, Canva really overwhelms me. I feel lost. I don't know how this works. I'm trying to make room here or space here. And it can be a little tricky, but once you get it, it does become intuitive. So I'm going to share some tips and tricks of how to optimize that workflow and some hidden features in Canva that took me years to figure out. And when I figured it out, I was like, that's stinking amazing, and I love it. And number three, I want to enhance your eye for aesthetic details. I see it again and again and again on resumes and people saying, well, I'm really detail oriented. Are you detail oriented if things are off centered, or if there's periods at the end of some statements in your resume and not on others? Or is the font the same on all your headers? These are all the things that matter. So as I begin talking through some of these things, I really hope that calibrates a sense of intuition and eye for detail within you of aesthetics, right? So these are the three things I want you to walk away with today. What are we actually going to be doing? Okay, so this agenda, this is an ambitious agenda. I recognize that. Stay like, buckle your seatbelts. It's a proverbial applicable pun to use today because it's a lot that we're going to cover. I want to do an actual introduction of Canva. I'm going to be working in Canva Pro, which is the paid version of Canva. And you're going to see all of the different capabilities that you get with that Canva Pro account. In no world am I associated with Canva in any like kickback professional manner here. I use Pro because it gives me a wide range of things that make my life and job easier. But there is a free version, and it has much more limited capabilities of what you're able to do with it. And then customization and branding. So understanding what your brand assets are in Canva and then how to upload them and how to begin thinking about that kit again. So it really does optimize your workflow and makes life really easy. And then designing professional documents. So crafting visually appealing resumes utilizing Canva. Something that I was really frustrated with in the beginning of my career is I remember spending like $250 to get this generic, bland, just banal corporate jargon words of a resume that I paid to have made for me. And it was delivered to me in a PDF version. And I was like, gosh, I just spent this money in this investment and I'm not even able to go back and update it if I get new work experience or new training that I want to do. So the beauty of having your resume live on Canva is one, you can access it from anywhere. So it's not just living on one computer for that matter, right? It's hosted within the Canva cloud for that matter. And you can always go in and update it. It's not like you're paying for this service or product that you can no longer update, and that's really frustrating. So we're going to be doing that. And then in-flight menu design. So designing visually appealing and informative in-flight menus. Now, menus, some people print them, some people display them on iPads. I recently was flying for a tech company and I had my menu ready to go as a PNG file. And I just airdropped it to all the executives on board because it was a long flight. They needed a menu, but they were account that was like, no menus. We're just not that kind of, we're not that kind of account, but they still needed menus. So I airdropped it to them and it lived in their photo album so they could easily access it throughout the flight as needed. So no matter what way you're displaying your menus or getting your menus to your client, it's always nice to have one. And then tips for an efficient workflow. So what are these time-saving techniques that Canva has built in, recognized as a need, and ensuring that you see those and understand them and it makes your life easier. And then last but not least, a thorough Q&A session, okay? I know there's going to be a lot of questions here and I'm going to do my very, very, very best to answer all of them. So I actually made this presentation in Canva, everybody. So let's actually talk a little bit about, here, we'll pop over to this slide. We'll use this. Let's actually talk about some of the things that show up in Canva, okay? What the bar means, it can be kind of overwhelming until you get around and really play with this and feel comfortable. So for example, let's say I am moving things around and I need something to stay put, no matter how much I'm dragging this back and forth and I'm moving this back in here. I want something to stay put. Maybe I have layers on. If you select something, that little purple highlight color here, see how that creates a little highlight around whatever you're selecting? That's kind of the one component that you're going to be working with here. So they'll populate different options of what you can do with that. But let's say I want my little flight is F to stay put. Do you see this lock up here? This locks the position of it. So if I'm grabbing things, I'm moving everything around, I cannot move that little F. So this is really helpful if you have like a layered resume. Let's say you have one bar underneath your text, and every time you go to move it or fix it, it's moving that rectangle there. So with that, it really does help keep things staying in put. So that's the lock button at the top here. We're going to unlock that because we don't need it. Now let's say that all of a sudden I wanted to make this text. I'm going to copy and paste this text here. I want to make this word introduction, but I want it to look like agenda. Okay. So instead of like looking at agenda and saying, okay, the font display is Freight Display Pro, and the font size is 91.9, and this is the color here. Instead of going through all of that and editing it, all I need to do is highlight what I want it to look like. I'm going to take this little copy style brush and then I'm going to hit that. So you can see that's really helpful if you're going through a resume or a menu and let's say all of your headers, you're changing the font size and the color and all of those different aesthetic components. You don't have to go in individually and do it. This is a big time saver. So position. This one can be a little tricky and there's two components to the position, right? Let's say I have this big paragraph here, but it's off centered and I'm not certain where it falls on the page. Under this position tab here, it gives you two different categories. You have arrange and you have layers. Layers kind of shows you how everything is falling on the page here. So let's say that I wanted, Actually, let's go back to arrange. Let's stay on arrange here. So let's say that I want this to be in the center of my page. It will align it to the page here so you can just click center. This is really, really, really helpful. Or if I want it to be on the top or the bottom or the middle or just the center. So that's something I use all the time, a feature. Now, let's just say for the sake of it that I want, let's grab something here. Let's grab a rectangle, a square, and I'm going to put this, and I want this to like kind of highlight my text here, right? Well, it's covering it now, right? But I want it to be behind it. So I'm going to go to click this, click my position page, and then under layers, I'm going to put it underneath the text here. So this makes it really easy instead of playing around with forward, front, back, kind of those options in the arranged category. Makes it really easy for me to be in layers and be able to manually move it and then see how it's stacking in a really visual format. So that's what the position tab will allow you to do. Animate, there is so much you can do with animate here. I don't think it's something we can get into today, but essentially it gives it a little more pizzazz. That being said, you're only going to be able to then save it as a like video file. You can't save a PDF with any kind of movement for that matter, or a picture for that matter. So I'm not going to spend too much time on animate today in this tabs. Effects. This one's pretty straightforward. This is kind of, if you remember old school Microsoft Word, where you could put like all different funk factors to your heading text. Lift is something I do use often because it helps make some of those headers stand out. Often, another thing too is if you ever need your text to curve, you can see under this effects tab and the style, you can click curve, and then you can round out how curved you want it. So this adds, a little pizzazz if you need something to have a little bit more of a roundness nature to it for whatever reason. Again, this is a very creative platform, but you do have that feature there. And that's part of the effects there. Okay, so spacing. Let's use this paragraph here for spacing. So if I want to make the space between my letters more, I can do this. This is a very trendy thing to do right now with font styles and presentation, is to put a lot of spacing. You'll see a lot of luxury brands utilize this. I don't think it's great for body text, but it's fantastic for header text, or it's fantastic for making your name look really sleek and really modern at the top of a resume. The second thing here is line spacing. So there are different options between this line spacing here that you can utilize. It can go really, really, really tight together, or you can change it and put a lot of space between each line. This is going to be really helpful to know how to utilize when you are doing your resume and you're putting all of your experience under a certain job title. You don't want to take up all that precious real estate on your resume by not by having so much space between each line. So really, really handy tool to know how to use the line spacing here. This is pretty straightforward. I made a bullet point list out of little asterisks here, but again, this is straightforward. Everyone knows how to, click that. We've all been there. Now, this is something I recognize often that people make the mistake of. So if I click agenda and I make this text box bigger, do you see how that purple outline of my text box, it just puts space around the word agenda, right? So if I wanted to keep typing, say I put my name, Jamie Gibson. Well, I just went on to 2 lines here. And what if I don't want that? What if I want it to all be on 1 line here? Well, I gotta make my text box bigger. And let's say that, okay, I want it to be centered into the page. So I'm gonna go to position, I'm going to arrange, I'm gonna click center. But what if I want it to actually be left side justified or right side justified? This is really something tricky to get used to as you begin building out your resumes and menus, is that making sure everything's aligned. If not the text box is the same size, then at least everything is left justified aligned here. In fact, I just helped my husband with a Canva project this morning. He's like, why are my words have like 3 spaces between? It's because he didn't realize that the alignment was on this full body text here. So something to be mindful of. Now, this also will make your life easy. Let's say that you want to turn all of the titles of your job experience in uppercase, right? Instead of going through and like manually retyping corporate flight attendant, part 91 flight attendant, mixologist. This button here is going to make everything uppercase right away. So really, really helpful. And then it easily transfers it right back to what it was originally. So if I wanted to make everything in this text, instead of retyping it, it will all automatically go into uppercase just using this button. Again, uppercase is another really trendy we're seeing now. A lot of people are using full uppercase, regardless of proper nouns or not. And then also using the creative choice of doing, maybe the description of a menu in all lowercase. So this is a good tool to know how to use and save you time. Everything else is really straightforward in here, right? So underline, bold, not going to get into that. Color, again, straightforward. But that being said, let's say I didn't have my Flightus brand kit here. You can see I have all of my colors for the Flightus brand kit here. It makes it when I have something to make for you guys that I want to show you, it makes it really easy for me to just be able to plop, plop my different colors and change everything. But let's say I didn't have that. Then you can use this color picker here to know exactly what color it is and to change it. So that's another really handy tool if you're working amongst different various mediums there. Just wanted to show you guys really quick that. And then Canva has so many font choices. It's kind of crazy, but they do make it easy up here with different auto-populated lists of handwriting, corporate, display. Utilize this for your different body and header text. Additionally, Canva has a tremendous amount of templates too that you can get inspiration from. Okay, so we've covered the top bar here. I guess before I move on to the other bar, I should quickly show you what these buttons do up here. You can see I'm moving my cursor on this gradient blue to purple banner. And there's a white button in the top right corner that says share. So this is an important one because you need to know how to download your resume or your menus for that matter, right? Let's say you have 2 menus that you're doing for a certain flight and they're on 2 separate pages. So if I were to download this, pretending this is my menu, you have 2 options when it comes to download. File type, PDF standard, PDF print. This is, again, if I had any kind of video components in here, it would auto-populate different options. And then all pages are none. So let's say you have a cover letter or different iterations of your cover letter that you're working on. Well, you don't want to send the cover letter for jet aviation that you already wrote for Solaris in the one PDF file, right? So there's different boxes on the right-hand side here where you can check what you downloaded in that PDF file. Don't want to download it in that PDF file. It makes it really straightforward for that reason. Again, guys, if you do have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A function of this webinar, a Zoom webinar, and then Mark and Josh will help me facilitate those questions. I'm trying to go slow, but I'm really excited to show you guys a lot of stuff here. Okay, so that's how you download there. Let's actually talk about what's here on the left-hand side. So design, these are different things that you can search for, right? Whether it be a menu template, presentation, sales deck, sales pitch, whatever it is. Elements covers so many different things. I'm going to get into this when we start working on a resume because it can be a video, it can be if you're trying to find a photo for a frame, it can be all of those things. Text, again, this just shows different various styles of text. It has some font combinations of things that you can use too. And then brand. This is what we're going to be utilizing for uploading our brand kit. We work on our in-flight menu. You can already see that I have my Flightus kit in here. Uploads can be anything. These are all of your videos that you upload, personal photos that you upload, anything can be in your upload file. And then it also automatically differentiates between video, audio, and images. And you may recognize some of these already being utilized in Flightus. The rest of the things here you can play around with, dabble with. Projects, it's just a way to organize your different designs, folders. It keeps it easy. Let's say you have a folder of all your cover letters, a folder of all your different resume iterations. And then DALL-E here, this is like the chat GPT of photos. I don't foresee you guys needing to do this, but let's say you wanted to put a private jet flying over New York City. You write a detailed description in the DALL-E and it generates that photo for you. So it's kind of fun. It's definitely not foolproof. You will definitely get some giggles out of what it populates for you, but that's what that is. Okay, so I got the permission from my very dear friend Kristen at Enterprise to utilize her company as our example for today. So with that said, what are we going to do? So let's say that I work at Enterprise, right? We have a couple corporate jets. So I want to make a menu for Enterprise. Now, let's look at all the different menu options that Canva has here. Canva has, let's just write in menu for different templates. Now, the cool thing about Canva is you type in resume, you type in menu, it already has all of these different options, okay? But you can't really, you still gotta put your touch on these. This isn't just totally foolproof. Yes, it gives you some idea of design aesthetic of where things should go and how they should be placed, and gives you the text bubbles to work with. But I very rarely have used a template exactly as is. It's really important to put your own spin on it, your own creative touch on it. So for that matter, I thought this menu template, maybe it's under my own projects here. Let's pop over here. I thought this was pretty cute, right? I'm not going to leave it anything like this, but I was just drawn to it and I liked it. Additionally, too, it's really helpful to look at these templates primarily because it gives you ideas of font combinations. So this font, this handwritten script, is called Brittany, and it's paired really well with this Canva Sans. The juxtaposition, the composition of these two contrasting fonts looks pretty fabulous. So again, we're making a menu for enterprise flight department, all right? There's a great website called BrandFetch. And granted, not every company that you work for is ever going to be on here. These are like kind of those big brands. So if I type in enterprise.com, it's going to give me all of the assets, the visual assets of enterprise. So I have the logos right here, and I have the colors and the fonts, the images, all of these things that are going to help me create a menu that is aligned with the enterprise brand. And again, think of this too from your own personal branding standpoint. It could be anything that you're inspired by that you want to keep, your fonts the same to create your resume, your business card, portfolio, cover letter, all of those pieces needs to be cohesive. So think of these, even though I'm talking about enterprise, think of this as a brand kit for yourself too, of having this consistency of font, color, logo. The logo can just be your initials, by the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this custom font that Enterprise uses. Okay, so you can see Enterprise Rent-A-Car, download, it's in my font kit. Additionally to the colors, I will add those to a brand kit. So let's actually go to Canva brand kits here. This is a tab, and I'll show you how to get here. Under your Canva, you want to click brand. And then you can already see I have the Flightist brand kit, and then I also have Goodwin as well. So what I want to do is add a new brand, and we're going to name this Enterprise. This really helps you stay organized when it comes to creating everything. So you're not always jumping back and forth to find those colors, to find those fonts. So the color palette, let's see. Color palette, what were our colors here under brand fetch? So really it's white, black, and I just need this green color. So I'm going to 169A5A. 169A5A. There. And then it's just white and black. So technically don't need to add those. I can add my logos if I needed to. And then I can also add that font that I just downloaded, the Enterprise car. Oops. I need to download it from Enterprise. If not, it's just a Canva Sans that I can use. But ideally, you want it to be like right on point there. Oh, it's a zip file. That's why it's not letting me. Let me open this. All right, fonts. Here we go. Download. Oh, it's not letting me download in that file. So we'll work around this here. So anyways, logos. If I download my logos also from the Enterprise, let's see. I can drag and drop that logo there. So I have the E. Perfect. Okay, so I have my brand kit ready to go. And again, think of that from your own personal brand kit. What fonts would you download? What colors would you upload? So as I go to my menu that I'm going to be working on here, if I wanted to change this background here, instead of having Flightist brand kit, I can easily just go ahead and click my Enterprise brand kit. So if you work for a lot of different companies, you can think of how easy this would be when it comes to creating menus or boarding cards or any other special little touches for that company. And when I say company too, I've worked on jets before where the owner didn't necessarily have a company for that matter with very out there logos, but there was still components to the jet that were very consistent. The color stripe on the side of the jet was the color that was utilized for all of the menus and other different various components that were on the interior side of the jet. So, don't get too caught up as I use the word company and things like that. Just creating some consistency around the cohesion of the exterior, the interior, and what's actually on board in terms of your client's preferences. So here we go here. I have a crazy idea that I'm going to launch here in terms of making this menu, and I'd like for you guys to stay on board with me here. So I'm going to chop this up like nobody's business here. Where's my brand? I am going to go ahead and load my Enterprise E here. And I don't know if you guys know, but the word E is also in the word menu. So I'm going to play with this here, all right? So look, if I try to utilize the screen, it's going to be difficult for me to really capture this E here that I want to use for menu. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using some of these elements as well that you can see in this tab here. Let's go ahead and put a big green square here. I'm going to position that to the back because I want this to be the header of my menu. And you can see, even though it's the correct enterprise green, there is a slight variation of color between the two greens, and that doesn't look good. So there's a trick to this. This is going to be your savviest trick that you learned today. Go to Edit Photo, and then click the Background Remover tool here. So this may not do a perfect job. It did a perfect job this time. That's awesome. Cool. When I troubleshooted this before, it did not. Okay, so I'm going to use this menu E, but let's take a look at the enterprise website and actually at their logo. Do you see how that E is the only component in green? The rest is in black and white here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this up, and I just want to use the E here. And then let's see. I need the rest. I need an M here. So what I'm going to do is make this bigger. And again, you guys are along for the ride. This is what I would be doing if I were an enterprise flight attendant. And then because it has that kind of double, the double font script of how the E looks, I kind of want to mirror that. So I'm going to create like a hollow effect here. I'm going to make this white. And I'm going to put this next to it. Maybe I might move my E there. And I want it to be the same size. Perfect. Just like that. And then here's the thing, the rest of it is in black, right? That's the rest of the brand. So I'm gonna carry on that component. Now, if I don't want this green part to move, remember I showed you that lock button? That's gonna be really important as you're building different components if you're building different layers. See how I'm kind of building this out here? As you get more layers, it becomes more imperative to lock them down so that it's not making it messy as it moves. Now, this is a little bit of a strong M. So there are so many different fonts here. That's way too strong. Just kind of want something that's a little more playful. I'll do this one, the Duro Sans. That works for me today. And then I don't want that effect because in the logo, again, I'm looking at that logo. That's just plain kind of fat, little squashy looking, white and black, very basic. So I'm going to remove that effect here. No effect. And you know what? I'm just still not very fond of this here. So let's see if I do Open Sans. Open Sans is like a nice thing. The other thing, did you see too underneath here where it says Duro Sans, Open Sans, change all? This is really helpful in terms of being able to change all your fonts all at once. So I want to realign this, and you can see, did you guys just see how that Canva is so intuitive? If I move this down and I go to move it, that dotted line, it helps train our eye in that intuitive movement of where things should go so that it's all aligned together, regardless of it being different components together. So I'm going to make this black right there with it, scoot this next to it. And do you see how the N and the U, they're kind of far apart, and I don't really want them far apart for that matter. I also recognize too that I don't want this M to be capitalized. I just realized that this is capitalized here. I don't want it to be capitalized. There. And I don't want those to be capitalized either. So again, this is just one example of how you can take a brand component and finagle it into your menu and create that like kind of really cool brand consistency there between these various functions just by creating this brand kit here. That being said, the end of these kind of far apart. So I'm going to go to my letter spacing tool right here, and I'm just going to pinch them together a little bit more. I'm also going to see too. I don't know if I like it bolded or not, but again, we're just playing around here. So if I want to lock this black rectangle box together so that's not moving anywhere, I can go ahead and lock that too. So just one example of how we can create something that looks very linear or aligned to the company itself. May not be perfect, and of course we could get the actual font downloaded, but for the sake of today, you still get the concept and the idea of how to do it. So let's actually work through building a menu out. Let's say we have 2-hour flight, 2.5-hour flight. Let's do the old Teterboro to Fort Lauderdale, okay? It's we're just doing lunch and whatnot. Oh, I just read Nicole's comment. Nicole, you are so kind. Thank you. Okay, so let's we're not charging guests on board so we're going to go ahead and do you see how I can take and scroll this, hold it all together, and I can just delete it so I don't have to go one by one. That's one cool thing about Canva. It allows you to group and hold things. And for that matter too, I want to show you guys how to group things. So let's say we were actually making a cocktail menu for Enterprise. You can see this is a cocktail menu right here. Let's say I want to always move French Martini with its description together. Well, I'm going to take my box here and I'm going to click the word group. So that way I never have to worry about it being separate. Although they're different components, they're different text box, they're grouped together. So if I group all of my cocktail names together with their descriptions, this allows me to do something that's really helpful. Do you guys remember, where'd my group button go on this? There it is. Do you guys remember that position button? Well, there's something else really cool that I want to show you. So if I hold on to all of these, let's say, oh gosh, as I was getting things all together, it's all over the place, right? That doesn't look good. I want everything to be aligned. So I'm going to click all of these. And what I'm going to do is click my position button at the top. And do you remember that arrange category right here? Well, I want to tidy it up. Do you see how it automatically just zipped everything together, did perfect spacing between all of my grouped text boxes together? That space evenly. That tool is so helpful because it's really hard for our human eye to be like, yeah, I think that's the right amount of space between each of these things. Yeah, that makes sense. So I love using that tool in the position tool there. Okay, so again, let's say I am making a menu here and I want to get to our resume component here. So I'm going to get through this a little bit quicker than I had originally planned to do. So, okay, we got our starters. You can do appetizers. You got your, maybe you do starters, maybe you do salads. Maybe you do soups. Maybe you do mains, sides, and cannot forget our dessert ever. Okay, so let's say I want to change all of these into that enterprise green color, right? Well, guess what? When I go to change the color, it's right there in my brand kit. That green is right there. And do you see how it auto-populated intuitively at the bottom? Change all of that red to green. I'm going to go ahead and click that, right? And let's say I want to change the font too. Let's see, what did I have this as? Open Sans. Let's keep going with Open Sans here. It will do the same thing. So again, just these easy tips and tricks that make it, fantastically straightforward to do this. And here I didn't lock those two together group. But again, different tools that you can use to build out your menu, starters, putting different things, different text boxes. I will say one thing that's going to make your life easier. Let's say starters, rye whiskey. That sounds like a dangerous starter to me. Instead of doing this, let's say our starters are charred cauliflower. Yes, I just served this on a menu. Instead of going to the second line here, see how I can keep building this out. Maybe I do roasted Brussels sprouts. Well, it's going to be a lot harder for me to be able to manipulate this as two separate components. Whereas instead, if I just created a separate text box with that, then I can kind of manipulate it a lot easier. The other thing is too, is if you ever want to shorten these text boxes, this allows you to go as long as that text box. It kind of makes it in a constraint there so it doesn't go on and on and on the way Microsoft Word does when you keep writing. This allows you to change the shape of it. So if I never want any of my text to go longer than that, if I'm trying to keep maybe a very minimalist menu or display, I can pull my text boxes really, really skinny and short. But I do recommend having a separate text box for all your text components instead of just building out bullet point lists in one text box. It's just harder to manipulate, especially if you want to put a description under charred cauliflower, right? I may make the font size smaller and I may change the color or something, and then able to, just lorem ipsum it there. But then I'm able to manipulate that exactly how I want it underneath as the description. So that was an idea of a component for creating your menus, right? Really utilizing that brand component and knowing all those tricks in order to successfully facilitate it. Thank you, Brand Fetch, the website, for making it so easy to find out companies, colors, fonts, and logos for that matter. So let's pop back over to another thing I want to show you too. Come back. There it is. Another thing I want to show you too is, let's say I'm putting this menu into a 5x7 photo frame. That's what I use on board. Let's say I have a photo frame that I use, and sometimes I do use that, but I want it to be automatically sized to fit that photo frame. Well, see this button magic switch up here? This thing's fantastic. And this is a pro feature as well. Well, what I can do here is go directly to just type 5x7. Hold on, it will do this. Custom size social media print products. You want to click print products, and then it has all of these different automatic sizes that you would want for this matter. So that's print products. Custom size social media will automatically customize it to your Instagram reel, Instagram post size, even resize into pixels. Sometimes if you want to do a LinkedIn banner, maybe a custom LinkedIn banner, LinkedIn will tell you, oh, it has to be 1080 by 1850, something like that. Well, you can automatically do the pixel sizes right in here. Another thing that's really easy too, let's say I wanted to do a 5x7 photo frame. Then I change this into inches instead of pixels. And then I can resize this design right here. And if you have two menus that you want to do for that matter, look, it might make you make things a little bit bigger for that matter. Two menus, you can easily just create them in a linear fashion here. Canva allows you to look at things like this. So they may not be next to each other, kind of like we're used to in other products in that matter. But it will let you have multiple pages you can print out for that matter. There's my original tester menu there. Okay, so let's go to resumes for that matter. There's one thing I do want to show everybody within resumes, because now that you kind of have the tools and the savviness, that was one of our goals today, know how to be savvy with Canva. Let's go ahead and click this one. Now, granted, remember, this recording is going to a lot of people, so don't just choose a template and leave it as it is. You've got to put your own creative touch on it, right? So let's say that Miss Sarah here, the amazing corporate flight attendant, Miss Sarah, let's say she wants to put a photo on her resume. Okay, well, how do we do that? Let's go to elements, and instead of clicking photo, or it's a magic word that you're always going to want to use when applying photos to any project that you're working on within Canva. Use the word frame. When I search the word frame, it comes up with all of these different shapes, and that makes it really easy to just put your photo directly into it. So I'm going to use this circle here for Miss Sarah. Let's say she's putting a photo on her resume, right? And then in my uploads, I'm just going to take a picture of someone. Thank you, Stu. You are going to be Sarah today. And do you see how it automatically fits it into that circle frame and makes it really intuitive and really easy? That frame feature is so important in knowing how to utilize photos on Canva. So again, this is kind of when I was talking about that lock section. If you ever have any layers like this, it's really nice to lock this down so that you're able to go in and easily accessibly change the photos here, or the font here. I know there's going to be a lot of questions here, and I want to make sure I leave ample time to start with this Q&A. Is it legal to use photos on a resume? So this is a two-handed question here, Stephanie. So I've talked to a lot of corporate flight attendants about this. With your photos on a resume, if you're ever applying through a formal HR platform, do not put a photo on a resume, because that's, in the United States, that could be considered biased hiring practices. However, if you're ever sending it through a friend, or like a lot of this industry is networking, right? Hey, I know an opportunity here. Can you send me a resume? People want to see how you show up for work. Okay, it's really important to show what your professional demeanor is. They can get a lot from your photo. and not in a discriminatory sense, in the sense of, does she have a nice smile? Does she look well groomed? Is her hair up, for that matter? So those are different components that people like to see. And a lot of lead flight attendants that I've talked to say they do prefer a photo on a resume if they're receiving it directly. Any other questions? Here, well, I can certainly keep going. Open, great. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's like kind of a tricky thing too, but you have to think about it. It's like your LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn utilizes photos, and your resume is a tangible, shareable format of LinkedIn. So, it's good to have two versions of it, right? So, I'll keep going on here. Let's say that, you are Sarah, Amelia, and you want to have some kind of logo for that matter. You want to use it on your business cards for that matter. You can go to the design right here and we can search logos, style, not on templates, logo design. And let's see what populates. It's only populating me resumes right now for that matter, but you can search it under your other templates on the Canva homepage here, and then it populates a fantastic logo for you as well. Okay, Terry Jensen asked QR code on a resume. I think a QR code's helpful to have on a resume if you're handing it out in a tangible fashion. It doesn't make sense to have a QR code if you are sharing it via email, right? Because no one's going to take their phone to it. Because for that matter, this brings up a good feature. There is so much to share with you guys here. Let's say that you want a QR code to your LinkedIn, right? Well, let's make this your LinkedIn right here. You can press this button if you highlight it, and you can automatically link www.linkedin.com/ whatever yours would be for that matter. So then you can hyperlink it there. Kind of eliminates the need for a QR code if you're sending your resume in a digital format. If you're handing it out, sure, have a QR code because they can't click on a link in your in that fashion. Okay, how do you get your resume in Canva? Getting your resume in Canva. It's not going to be something that you ever you're gonna have to create it in Canva. It's not like an auto load thing. Sure, you can upload a PDF, but those components might not be movable. So I would recommend just creating a fresh start of your resume on Canva. How do you remove a background of, say, a food pic and add it to a new background on your resume? Really great question. Okay, so I'm just going to start fresh here. Let's say we're creating a little food culinary portfolio, right? This is locked here, so I want to unlock that. Okay, so I'm going to go to my elements here, and I'm going to type in food photo, but I need it. That's so funny. There's a frame for a croissant. I never knew that. I'm learning so much being here. So there's different graphics you can use. And then if you have Canva Pro, you have access to these royalty-free photos. So let's say you made this rigatoni with spring onion. I don't know what this is, but okay. Actually, let's just say you made this burrito. This is the background. So I'm going to go to edit photo up here, and then I'm going to click the background remover. BG remover is right here. So there it is, my burrito. And let's say I want to show it in a really clean kitchen. I'm going to just type in clean kitchen here, and I'm going to look for photos for that matter. What populates? And granted here, this is going to be a little bit harder. I don't want that spraying in the background, but let's say we use, I'm trying to find a clean countertop photo here, but in terms of different backgrounds, you can use like any of these backgrounds. You'd have to do a little bit more, making sure it's the right dimension and style, or if you just want plate, a photo of a plate here, by all means. And then I'm going to position this, see how it's falling behind the plate. Well, I want it to be in front of the plate. So I'm going to go to position and I'm going to pull it to the front here. So it takes some tricky playing around in that matter, but that's how you would take a food pic and add it to a different background and then remove the background that you had for it. Okay. Can you use these things for personal websites and Instagram? Totally. I use Canva every single day of my life for anything from my child's like first birthday card to things that I'm helping out with Goodwin for social media marketing, LinkedIn. I hope when you say these things, I'm not certain what those things refer to, but absolutely, like these are These are tools you can use for anything. Instagram, there's tons of templates for Instagram on Canva already populated that you can utilize your brand kit, and it makes it really easy to transition to. Miranda Moorhead asks, if you have one resume with a photo and one without, can you update the text on both at the same time, or do I just need to copy and paste? So if I have a resume, Stuart, when I talked to Stuart on Friday, he is going to laugh that I used his headshot here. So I wouldn't be able to update the text on both of these at the same time. If I'm removing this version of the resume, then I still have to move this over at the same time. This isn't going to be symbiotic in the sense that the updates will go through the same manner. What you can do for that matter is do one update and then this button at the top, duplicate. So let's say you got a new job and you don't feel like updating both job experiences on both versions of your resume, right? Update one and then click the duplicate page here button at the top. It's right at the top here, duplicate page. And then that way you have those updates already on it. And then you can just remove the professional photo that you have there. I hope that answers your question. It makes it easy just using the duplicate button instead of having to go back and forth with your work. How do I get my headshot into Canva? Canva makes it really easy to put your photos into. So there's a thing here, uploads. Guess what? I don't even need to click the word upload. Let's say that I want to, let's see here. Let's say that I am going to go on LinkedIn, right? And who's ever on LinkedIn just they get their headshot. Alicia Palace. Oh God, Alicia, you should know that you are a kind participant unwillingly in this. So here's her professional headshot, right? All I have to do is copy this, and I am going right into, all I have to do is hit like left click, Command V, copy it, and it's automatically going to go into my uploaded files right here as that headshot here. So if I wanted to use Alicia's photo, I would just click the word frame, not click, but instead of looking at photos, I'm going to go to all of the elements, and under frames, use this circle here. And then I don't want Alicia's beautiful photo right here in the middle of the page. I'm going to go back to my uploads and I'm going to click and drag her photo into that photo frame. So it makes it really easy and it automatically resizes it for her. That's how you would get your photo into Canva. All right, when we download, we can choose to download in a PNG, JPEG, or PDF. Can they be uploaded on an ATS? Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Really grateful. I'm so sorry. I'm just a little unfamiliar with like the ATS acronym in this context. I'd love to be able to answer this question. I'm just not familiar with that acronym within the greater context of this conversation. Are we a fan of AI assisted headshots where we take a great pic of ourselves, clean up the background, or add our brand colors? If so, which one do you like? I'd be really careful with AI assisted headshots. It's a really slippery slope here in terms of people get really off put in an interview situation when they're like, she looks nothing like her photo. So be sure to have some integrity in terms of utilizing AI to clean up some of the background, perhaps. I am all a fan of, look, if you have a friend take a photo of you and on a blank wall and you want to clean up that background, this is how I would do that for that matter. So let's say Alicia wanted to use a white background instead of this gray background here. So what I would do is I would go to edit photo. I would remove the background first and foremost. Next thing I would do is I want a circle outline because now she's just kind of floating, right? And we don't want that. So I take this circle outline here. And what I'm going to do is auto formulate hers to just easily go in that circle outline. So it looks like she has a white background for that matter. And sure, it could take a little more finessing. And then what I'm going to do, so those two things always move together. Remember I showed you that group function there? So we're going to group that so that her photo always goes together with that frame and it changes the background. But let's say you didn't want a white background. Maybe you wanted a, whatever this background is, a little texture. We'll go with that. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up in the same size here. And let's see if I can do this. I'm going to position it backward. And then therefore it has that little textured white background. You can do that with anything. Okay. Oh, okay, okay. I just learned what ATS stands for, Greenhouse Workday. Okay, applicant tracking system. Got it. Didn't know that before. I really appreciate that question. Let me ensure I want to answer that question. I'm not sure where it went. Okay, download panorama. Can they be uploaded? I personally have not uploaded anything into Greenhouse, even though I just started working within that platform. But I have to imagine they have a lot of different various mediums that they will accept in terms of upload ability. And great. And another thing too, whenever I'm getting something professionally printed, the printers will be like, oh, can you please save it in Canva under what will they say? They give you the guidelines of what to save it under. So whenever you are going to upload something, or you want to share it or to have it downloaded in the right format, normally there's some kind of instructions of what they will accept. Wait, I'll put down the PNG and PNG test. So she's really grateful. Okay. Can you add videos to a Canva page like the way you add a photo? Yes, but then you will have to save it. Then you will have to, if you add it to a Canva page, if you add a video to a Canva page, it will automatically have to be saved as a video format, which is a much bigger format. But yes, and the cool thing about Canva Pro is that it allows you tons of videos that you can use. So under Elements, Elements is such a big folder in the Canva piece here, right? You can do search videos. Let's say I want to find a plane taking off. I can search that, and then I want to click the videos, and it's going to have all of these different videos of aircrafts taking off. So let's say I wanted that to be the background here. It's really overwhelming. It has a sound, but maybe turn the transparency down a little bit. I have the transparency button ability too, and then I position it to back. So you can add videos in that way. And also I use the transparency function quite often. That's a really nice tool to use with photos. Any other questions? The last 2 minutes here. Any questions? All right, I have found that Canva resume templates was challenging because I have a 2-page resume with vast experience that I've consolidated. The text box style and all else was limiting. Is there anything that you know on here that would help? I'm going to give you the advice of Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg has a 1-page resume, and if Mark Zuckerberg has a 1-page resume, then all of us should as well. You don't necessarily need to have vast responsibilities and experience explanation underneath. Remember, under each column, because remember that I'm so sorry, I'm just reading these and it's getting a little convoluted here. Remember that in your interviews, people are going to ask you questions about your experience for that matter, right? So you don't need to necessarily have every single job responsibility that you ever had. You can just have the title of it, the dates that you worked there, and the company that you worked for. So consolidate. And then the most recent experience as well is the one you want to elaborate the most on, or the experience that is most relevant into the job in which you are applying to. But really, 2-page resumes are like a no-go. It's not something you should have. Like ATS prefers docx, which is not a version Canva will save as. Just did a quick Google search. So with that, I've not. I have to look more into that, but especially when you are doing resume and
I can
uploading it.
answer. I could
Do you want
provide
to
some
answer that, Mark?
Yeah, I could provide some color on that. We use Greenhouse quite a bit, and that applicant tracking system, it will accept PDFs. I know that for a fact. I know you can save as a PDF in Canva. Because we do receive quite a few resumes as PDFs through Greenhouse. I don't know about other ones. I can't answer that, but I do know that certainly because I was reviewing some resumes today, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem utilizing PDFs for certain. And I've been, in the staffing side of this business for quite a bit of time now. Yes, guys, we've reached the hour here. So this will be available to rewatch. If you registered, you will be emailed a direct link to be able to watch this again. Thank you so much for being here. How far back should jobs be listed? It's really hard to give these big answers here because a lot of times each individual is so different. each professional is so different. So if I were to, it's a case by case basis for that matter. So if you had a job that is extraordinarily pertinent to the job you're applying to, but it was 20 years back, yes, it should be on your resume. It just depends on the case by case basis for that matter. I'm so glad that you all enjoyed this. I'm happy to answer follow-up questions if I'm able to. But I really appreciate the kind support that I'm reading. It's really really heartwarming to read, and I'm very grateful for your all's time today. Happy to answer any follow-up questions that I didn't get to on Instagram or via email, but hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for chiming in. It was fantastic to share with you, and I
Jamie,
hope to do more of these.
oh,
Go ahead.
Jamie, there's one question that I think is important that was
Sure.
missed. Do you have any suggestions on picking fonts that go together? Is there a feature that if building a project from scratch?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I get a lot of inspiration from looking at the templates together because there's so many fonts out there that if you already look at the templates that Canva populates, like let's go to see some of them. So let's look at, oh gosh, let's look at the resume. Let's just look at the resume templates here. You'll see that these are trained graphic design artists that have already put different fonts together, showcasing that they work together as a font family, creating good juxtaposition of various styles and whatnot. So get inspiration from that, and then you'll start to learn as you work more in Canva what fonts that you naturally gravitate towards. Like I use Glacial Indifference all the time. I'm constantly using different iterations of the Amsterdam font as well. Flightus has a font that is custom to it and is utilized. And then I had a brand person help me with supplying fonts in terms of body style, but it's also something you can really easily Google too. Pinterest provides good font pairing profiles too. So there's a lot of resources out there because it's hard for an untrained creative eye to really know, okay, this family works and this is a good contrasting method here. So there's a lot of resources out there to help with that for certain. That's a great question. Really great question. I'm so happy. Oh gosh, thank you so much for the kind comments, guys. Really, it makes me smile to know that this was helpful today. I apologize if I went a little quick, but again, I really have questions thereafter that perhaps we didn't get to today. I know it was a lot of information, but very grateful for for your time and then your positivity and sharing that with me. So thank you so much for chiming in today, and you'll get the link to this soon. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. Again, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to share my day with you today. All right, bye everybody. Have a great day.